Fear and Hunger is very obviously a pretty great game that's been blowing up in popularity recently. I myself just jumped on the bandwagon like last week, and it's been out for like 2 years now, but it's just now getting popular. And because of its new popularity, there's been a lot of videos coming out talking about the amazing music, the amazing setting, the amazing enemy designs, and all of these great things that Fear and Hunger just does right. But there's one thing that I think Fear and Hunger does better than anything else it does that really isn't getting talked about enough, and that's the combat in Fear and Hunger. I haven't really seen anyone talk too much about the combat or how you fight enemies or anything like that, besides saying that it's incredibly unforgiving. And yes, Fear and Hunger combat is incredibly unforgiving. If you've played Dark Souls before, and if you go to Fear and Hunger, you're going to be like, wow, Dark Souls was being nice to me, because how unfair and unforgiving and difficult Fear and Hunger combat seems sometimes. However, even with all those thoughts in your head, when you go back and think about it, you're going to be like, damn, Fear and Hunger had a great combat system. Even though it's just turn-based, even though it's just an indie RPG, the combat system is absolutely amazing. And the reason that is because it's so easy for your character to die. It's so easy for your character to lose limbs. It's so easy for your character to get infected and lose the game, to bleed out, to get poisoned. All those things are so easy, and they always happen to your character. However, those things happen just as easily to the enemies. And that makes the gameplay so incredibly unique. Because what other game is there where you can legitimately cut off an enemy's arm and that enemy just loses an attack? They just lose one of their main abilities. You can dismember enemies, they just have no attacks to attack you with. It's just such an interesting and awesome and cool concept that I haven't really seen done before. Sure, in some games you can't shoot off like an extra limb or like a gun out of someone's hand and now they can't shoot anymore, or maybe they can't use a laser anymore or something like that. But in Fear and Hunger, it's an integral part of the game. You have to decide, do I take out their limbs and limit their attacking ability, or do I go for their main body and try to kill them before they kill me? What's the best strategy here? It's just such a complex topic, and for every enemy there's like a different answer. For someone like the prison guard, for example, or if you're not familiar with the game, the prison guard is the dude with the giant pee-pee that, does terrible things to your character. When you fight him, you initially want to target the head or the pee-pee, because that pee-pee is disgusting, and if you're recording the game, you really want to cut that off as quickly as possible so you don't have to censor as much. But in reality, you should use your context clues that are in front of you and cut off the arm holding the butcher knife first. And now he can't do his most powerful attack to you. He loses his ability to cut you. And now you have an enemy that lost their primary mode of attack. And that makes such an intimidating and powerful enemy that you're probably going to die to several times when you first start playing the game, into a complete laughing stock, and something you can kill easily and just pound on until it dies. And there's just so many aspects of where that repeats in Fear and Hunger, where different enemies have different weaknesses, different body parts do different attacks. Some body parts don't do any sort of attacks or mean anything, and if you attack them, you're just wasting your time. Like the current boss I'm fighting, the Tormented one. You have to fight his limbs first before you can get to his body, because attacking his body at first is nearly pointless. And then in his first stage, attacking his arms is pointless, and you have to attack his body first. It's such an interesting concept, and it's just so well done and so well executed. And I think that people won't talk about that enough when it comes to Fear and Hunger. Always bragging, or not bragging, but praising the music, which is amazing, praising the setting, which is amazing, praising the story, which is pretty good so far. I haven't completed the game all the way, so I can't say it's amazing, but it has been a solid story so far. When in reality, I think the combat really makes the game and connects it all together. Because if you have scary enemies, you have a scary setting and a scary story, but then it sucks fighting the enemies, or always feels unfair fighting the enemies in a bad way, then the game's still going to be bad. But if the combat is interesting, and you have to look at context clues, you have to make the right choices and right guesses on what body parts to target and what body parts to let live, it just makes the game that much more exciting. And then the idea of headshots in the game, where if you land a single headshot on most enemies, they will insta-die or almost always die. But headshots are almost impossible to get. But how do you increase your chance to get headshots then? Because sometimes monsters have so much health that the only reasonable thing is to go for headshots. Well, then in that scenario, you should go for their legs. If you stumble their legs and hit their legs, guess what? They're slower now, and headshots are easier to hit. It's just it's not a complex system, but at the same time, it is complex. It's such simple mechanics that are inside complex enemies. Because the actual fighting itself couldn't be more simple. The strategies couldn't be more simple. But each enemy is so much different. Each enemy has so much different complexities that it makes it that much more interesting. It makes the system that's simple as a whole and easy to learn as a whole that much more complex. And it's honestly just something so cool that I feel is like underrated. Like the Maniba, I don't know if I said that right, so I apologize. The very first enemy you'll probably fight in the game, besides maybe the prison guard. If you attack the Maniba's head right away, or its body right away, it's a rare instance where that's the best decision right off the bat. You can insta-kill him. But if you attack his tentacles, he might get 2 or 3 hits in on you on one turn. So depending on what you do on your first choices when you read the situation, that can go from a complete joke enemy that's a one hit to taking down half your health in a single move, a single turn. And it's just so crazy that it can happen, because it means what that allows Fear and Hunger to do is allow almost every enemy to be extremely dangerous, but also allow almost every enemy to be extremely easy. And it just makes the game worth replaying as well, just fighting these enemies with different strategies every time. Because for the most part, there's very few instances where you can't look at an enemy and then through logical thinking deduce what the best route of attacking is. Most of the times you run into an enemy, you can, if you stare at them long enough and look at what the kind of enemy it is, look at their name, you can probably figure out what body part you should focus on first. I will say a few of the bosses don't do that well. I would say that's the worst example of the combat system in Fear and Hunger, but they are bosses, so they are meant to be more confusing and stronger. But for the most part, basic enemies in the game, you can tell exactly what parts you should cut off if you just think about it. Now, if you come into the game not thinking about it, you're just going to get killed by everything. But if you go in the game with a certain level of like knowing you have to be patient, knowing you have to look at the art. The art itself is a hint. The art of the enemies is a hint. Their icons, what they look like, that's a hint on what you should attack first. And I know I'm ranting, I know I'm using a lot of big words because I want to sound smart. I want to make it sound like a good video. So I'm using a bunch of big words I don't normally use, and that's lost on me now. I'm done being smart, guys. I'm back into my just like dick sucking mode. I just literally love the combat. It's just a great combat, guys. A great combat system. The fact that just the player models, the enemy models, means so much in the combat system is amazing. The fact that you can lose limbs so easily, but also cut off enemy limbs so easily is really awesome. It makes you not feel underpowered, but you just equal with all your enemies. You never feel overpowered, but you also never feel underpowered, because if you attack the right limb or do the right amount of damage to a certain part of the body, you're instantly in a victory situation where you just have a humongous advantage over your enemy. But they cut off your arm, now you're at a huge disadvantage for the rest of the game. It's just such an awesome game with an awesome combat system. And I even looked up videos that talked about the combat system in particular, and I couldn't find any. So that's why I made this video. Maybe at this point there is a video talking about the combat system a little bit better than me, a little more specific, but as of right now I didn't see any, and that's why I wanted to talk about more than anything, because god damn, it is good. And it just works so well with the setting. It works so well with the character models. Like the fucking enemy models, the art is awesome, and the art means so much. When the art actively impacts the game, how enemies look actively impact the game and the strategy for fighting them, I just love that. I eat that shit up. I eat that shit for dinner, lunch, and breakfast. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you agree, let me know oh my god! Let me know if you guys agree. I'm glad I'm getting all the fucking speech mess ups now and not in the middle of the video, because goddamn. But let me know if you guys agree. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your favorite enemy to fight is, and let me know if you like the game. Stay blessed, stay happy, like and subscribe. We're trying to hit 500 by Monday, which is 2 days from now, 1 day from now. So that's not possible, but still, thank you guys so much for the support recently. Stay safe and stay blessed.